pull this up real quick. It's working. All right, looks like we're live. Hey, everybody. I'm here again with Trey. Tonight, what I was hoping to do is get kind of a good overview of not only his apologetics, but why he does what he does. What's the purpose behind the apologetic, and what's going on from his standpoint. The way that I was going to start that is from what I understand, and Trey, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, most of, if not all the stuff that you kind of base your apologetics on is going to be from the R.C. Sproul camp. And based on that, we'll expand from there. But I kind of wanted to play that to begin with, so everybody watching and anybody seeing this will kind of at least have a foundation for where you get your that's like Feynman is my guy when it comes to physics. That's kind of your guy as far as what I'm understanding when it comes to your apologetics. Am I on base there, or do we need to clear anything up? Or
No, that's basically the foundation pretty much for everything that I have. For the most part, I got from R.C. Sproul, and yeah, if Feynman's your man, Sproul is my man. Yeah, that would be an accurate description.
Okay. All right. What I'll do then is I'll go ahead and pull that up, and y'all are gonna have to forgive me because again, I am not the best in the world at this by any means. In fact, this is the first time I'm actually going to try and screen share, so this ought to be an adventure. So let's see if I can actually get this to work. So, well, I clicked on the icon, and now it's deciding not to do anything. There it goes. There we go. All right, this, for everybody in the audience, this is going to be about a 5-minute clip. It is directly from R.C. Sproul's, he's got I think it's a 25-part series of videos. They're about 20 minutes each. This is directly from the second one, and it's titled Why Apologetics. He mirrors what he says in this one again in the third one, and at least alludes to it a little bit in the first one, and then also refers back to it throughout all 25, more or less. So I just want to play that and then just kind of ask Trey a couple of questions on it, and then we'll just kind of let it grow organically from there. So with that said, let's get that started. Start screen share. Hopefully that'll come up. Of course, it's got to think. There we go. All right, it's going to be present to everyone. And let's go ahead and start it.
From my approach on this. But one of the questions that I get frequently, since I'm known to embrace Reformed theology, and Reformed theology teaches that no one has the moral power to respond positively to the gospel or to the truth claims of Christianity unless or until God the Holy Spirit changes their heart. And so if we believe that you can't argue somebody into a conviction of Christianity or into conversion, you can't simply persuade them through rational arguments or the charm that you bring to the discussion, but rather you're impotent to change the soul of another human being. Only the Holy Ghost can do that. Many have come to the conclusion of saying, well, then it would seem that apologetics is a Herculean waste of time. Since we can't convert anybody with it, why bother? And so anybody who is in the Reformed tradition frequently is called upon to answer that question. If it's true that apologetics can't convert anybody, then why do it? Why apologetics? And that's what I want to look at today. If we go back to the text that I mentioned in our last meeting, from Peter, 1 Peter chapter 3, remind you of what it says. Sanctify magnify the Lord God in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you with meekness and fear, having a good conscience, that when they defame you as evildoers, those who revile your good conduct in Christ might be ashamed. So here, in the biblical context in which apologetics is enjoyed, one of the important purposes of it was to bring the enemies of Christ and of his church to open shame. Now that reminds me of John Calvin, who was usually considered to be the father of Calvinism. If anybody ever believed that it required the Holy Spirit to convert somebody, it was John Calvin. If anyone believed that apologetics could never convert anybody, it was John Calvin. But of course, John Calvin did not abandon this task or this mandate that is given to us in the church. And in his Institutes, when he is defending his case for the authority of sacred Scripture, he goes through a series of specific arguments for the integrity of the Bible, including evidential arguments along the way, and acknowledges at one point that all of these arguments, as powerful as they may be, would never persuade somebody to acquiesce to the evidence unless or until God the Holy Spirit did his awakening work in that person's mind and in that person's soul. And yet, along the way, Calvin said that the evidence which he was giving and the arguments that he was advancing were sufficient to stop the mouths of the obstructors. Interesting trait. To stop the mouths of the obstructors. Not to convert the hearts of the obstructors, but to stop their mouths. Now,
Okay. So, Trey, anything in that clip that you feel that, I quote mine, I took out of context that you want to clarify or you don't agree with or, anything like that, I just want to make sure that you feel that that was a fair representation of how at least R.C. Sproul sees apologetics in that facet, at least the facet that we're starting with there. Is that fairly accurate, or?
Sure, and insofar as what he was saying, I mean, the purpose of apologetics, first of all, is for the believer himself to test to see if what he believes is true. The ultimate goal for apologetics is to find what is true and to live in accordance with that reality. And so my goal, say, for example, with you, is to love you in such a way that I would take what I perceive to be true and share it with you in hopes that God would convert you, not for the purpose of any way to hurt you, but to love you so that you may know what I know. Now, that does not necessarily say that what I believe is necessarily true, but it does speak to the fact that I'm convinced that it's true, and I want others to know what is true as well because I care about them. Now, if I am not able to see a conversion, if you will, and I'm not talking about conversion every time the presuppositionalists always, they're very much into presenting the gospel with each, interaction they have, and that's okay, I guess, but I don't necessarily see that. That's a little too wooden for me. My ultimate goal is the gospel, but if I'm not able to get to a person if I'm able to be persuasive for them and they don't want to, I at least want to be able to counter their argument with better argumentation that is more sound. That's what he means by silencing the obstreperous. So, yeah, I would agree. I think that was like half of the portion. The first half is to know truth and to live according to truth and to love your neighbor into that truth. And then what he was basically pointing out there is, when somebody slanders you, that you need to know your stuff so that you won't be shamed, and that you will actually shame them and show them to be being dishonest in what they're doing because of your ability to reason well.
Because I'm taking that almost directly the opposite. In that, I mean, again, I've got a couple of other quotes. I mean, I can go get the video, but I don't think we really want to waste time. But I mean, he goes on to say, in that one alone, the purpose of apologetics is to put restraints on those who are unrestricted in their criticism of Christianity.
Yeah, and that's what I just said. I mean,
right,
that's
well, but here's where I'm running into a problem. Here's where I have the I guess it's let me kind of just cut to the chase, because again, I don't want to beat around this. We don't have a whole lot of time. There's two main messages that I take away from Sproul and Calvin. One, any and all arguments attempting to prove the existence of God, they're not meant to persuade anybody. All they're meant to do is either bolster the beliefs of those who already have them, or just dissuade the other side. Because at the end of the day, there's absolutely nothing that you can do to change my mind. Everything that comes into my recognition of God, at least from a Calvinist point of view, and from Sproul's point of view, from what I understand, and definitely from Calvin's point of view, is that it has to come from God. No matter how good your arguments are, no matter how good you want to lay things out, if I have a mind of the reprobate, I will not be able to see it if and until God decides that he's going to do it. So what it seems like to me, anytime an apologetic is directed at a non-believer, there's really only one goal there, and that's to shut their mouths as quick as you can. And if you want to shame them into doing it, or if you use shame to do it, then all the better. It doesn't matter. In fact, like you said, I mean, you look at 1 Peter 3:15, it specifically says, shame them. I mean, this...
No, it says shame those that slander you. In other words, by your good behavior and your answer, people who are lying about you will be shamed. I mean, I don't see the problem with that.
Okay, but again, where I see the problem is this. Being an educator, being someone who's taught for a long time at a lot of different places and different levels, one of the main things that I teach my students, and I've been taught through all of my training, is that you never want to dissuade conversation. No matter how ridiculous it is, no matter how out there it might seem, you want to engage with people. And the reason being is it's twofold. Number one, if someone is bringing something to the table that is absolutely just nonsensical, I don't need to do anything to expose that. It will expose itself. So why should I shut them up? Secondarily, if I am honest and if I do care about truth, then I should be wanting anything and everything someone else has to say to be on the table. And for Sproul and Calvin, and it seems like you're following suit, for you guys to say, well, we want to shut the mouths of the obstreperous. We want to, in the third video, Sproul says, we are to give answers to those asking questions, not in hopes of bringing them closer to the truth, but to only put them to shame in the hopes of shutting their mouths. Now, that's him. That's Sproul saying that. To me, that's fairly pointed, and there's not much left to interpretation there. That if you're dealing with an atheist, do everything you can to shut them up. Now, the reason that I'm I hate to put it this way, but targeting you here, Trey, is because just like I saw with Matt Slick when they invited me to debate on Bible Thumping Wingnut Show, the same way that I see all of the Cyclones and Cy 10 himself. In fact, there's a video with Cy 10 specifically stating that this is what's going on. Some of the things that you do, Trey, really at least hint that that's what you're doing. And it's really, I well, I'll just put it out there. It's infuriating to watch you use some of the language you use, some of the references that you use, and when I look at it in context of this, it's not because, I don't know, you want to sound intelligent and you like the sound of big words. It's because you want to put your opponent on their back foot and shame them into, not understanding what you're saying, so you can, again, do your little condescending laugh and go, oh, well, what that means is, I mean, I've got a bunch of examples that, that really struck me the wrong way, and again, it's because of my educational background. I'll give you an example just so we understand, and I'm not just ad hom attack here. You use, at least, I think there's been quite a few times, but I know for sure, I want to say it's 3 times, but anyway, I know I can go pull the exact sound clip up on one where you use the principle of parsimony. Now, I know what that was, but that's because I'm fairly well versed in this stuff. As an educator, when I'm teaching people, I am going to talk to my audience, especially if I want my audience to understand what I'm saying. Now, using the principle of parsimony is, at best, you're going to get 10, maybe 20% of the audience that knows what that's referring to. Whereas if you just used Occam's razor, especially in this community, you're probably going to get 70 to 80% of the people.
I am completely ignorant of that distinction. Completely ignorant.
If you just use the simplest explanation, in most cases is the correct one, you're going to get 95 to 100% people understanding what you're talking about. So what I'm saying is when you're using the verbiage you use, the way that you address people, the condescending laugh, it all points back to exactly what Sproul and Calvin are saying, is that you're not honestly engaged in trying to educate people, because there's no point in educating people. You can't save people. God's the one who does it. So you're just
well,
going
if
to
God's the one that does the saving, then why does he call me to engage people?
Again, well, we can go back and look at what Sproul says about that. Basically, God said do it, so you'll do it. And
okay, why would God say do it if it's meaningless?
Well, again, I think I alluded to that earlier. It's twofold. One is to shut our mouths, is to shut the mouths of the people who don't.
Is God being threatened?
Secondarily, it is to bolster the beliefs of the people who already believe. So the saved, or the elect, if you will, it allows them to bolster their faith. Now, again, I don't know why that matters, because if they're elect, they're in. So why would you care? But again, I'm not, as you guys are so fond of putting it, I don't know the mind of God. Now, why God said do it and you do it, I don't know. But that's basically what Sproul says. That's basically what Calvin says, is that we've been commanded to do this, therefore we do it unquestioningly.
Well,
So,
actually, what the Bible teaches is that God uses our words to save people. It's not our effort; it's the power of the Holy Spirit that brings regeneration. But we are the instrumental cause of salvation, and the Holy Spirit is the efficient cause of salvation. And we are a necessary point. It says, "How shall they know unless they are preached to? How blessed are the feet of those who bring glad or good news." So you're completely caricaturing Calvinism, R.C. Sproul, and
Trey, again, you can preach. Okay, well then let's be on the same page, because I don't want to put words in your mouth. If I am non-elect, if that is my role, if that is what God has ordained for me, is any amount of the word preaching, is that going to change my status to elect? Am I ever going to hear the word?
Depends on from whose perspective.
From God's perspective. If God is, okay, well, let's break it down. Is the only way to salvation by God deciding who is elect and who is non-elect?
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
people are, he chose us in him before the foundations of the world,
Exactly.
to
So
be in the Son. So
before
that's what the
thousands
Bible
of years,
teaches, right?
yeah, however many thousands of years ago, my destiny was ordained. I have no role in it whatsoever. I am either elect or non-elect even before I'm born. And if God, again, this is a point of debate, if God somehow changed his mind, which you're going to say he can't, but I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. But if for some reason he could, that's the only way that I would be saved. It has nothing to do with my actions, has nothing to do with what I hear, has nothing to do with who brings it to me.
But yeah, I guess so. I mean, I feel like I'm arguing with Oral Roberts here rather than
Well, remember, I went to Oral Roberts, so
that's what I mean.
yeah,
A
I know
passionate
this argument very well. I heard it for well over plenty of semesters.
Well, I don't believe Oral Roberts was a Christian, but anyway.
I don't believe Oral Roberts is, well, we're not going to get down that road, but anyway, what I'm saying is number one, you have, if you're going to believe Calvinism and you're going to adhere to Tulip, then the non-elect are preordained, as are the elect. So here's the converse to that. No matter what you hear, let's say that you are the elect. Let's say you are of the elect. Is there anything that you can hear? Is there anything that can happen that will ever make you non-elect?
No, but I don't understand how this is totally impertinent to our conversation. I don't understand why it's so important to you.
Well, because here's the thing. If I go into it with that, and you're going to hate this, but presupposition.
I'm not a presuppositionalist.
I didn't say you were, but that is a presupposition. You believe that as a foundation to your existence.
Well, yeah, but I don't presuppose it. I reason it.
Okay, however you get to that point, I really don't care. So let's say
it's a starting point. Okay, we'll say that.
So let's use the correct verbiage here. You reason to the point that Tulip is correct, and there is the elect and non-elect, and it's all preordained by God before the foundations of the earth.
But I don't know who the elect are. Do you understand that? It doesn't really matter to me.
What I'm saying is my point here is it doesn't matter if you know, because if I happen to be elect or I don't happen to be elect, it is going to make absolutely no difference in the end. There is nothing to gain from preaching. There is nothing to gain from giving me information, because my role has been preordained. It has nothing to do with you.
Okay, you're speaking from the perspective of aseity, from God's perspective. So what? He calls us not to live in that realm. That has nothing to do with me. I don't understand why it's such a fetish for you.
Because here's the problem. If you believe that, then the only logical reason that I can see for you going out and doing any apologetics to a non-believer is exactly what Sproul was saying, exactly what Calvin was saying, in that you just want to shut us up.
No, you're completely missing the whole point.
Then great. Then enlighten me, because
as I told you, the believer or the evangelist, if you will, or whatever, is the instrumental cause for salvation. God doesn't save people apart from my preaching, if you will. In other words, it's the ordained plan that God has, and to say that, well, if somebody's elect or not, that it makes no difference. That's from God's perspective. That's none of our business, except to know that there is such a thing. But God cannot communicate His incommunicable attributes, which is His eternality or His elective purposes in a specific manner. We can't know that, and so we're not called to live in that world. We're called to live in the world to preach the gospel to all creation and to seek their salvation and tell them, repent. For the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That's our job.
Okay, and
my goal is to love you, Ned, not to hurt you in any way.
I'm not. It's not about injuring. It's about protecting. What I'm saying is here's the way that I see a Calvinist apologist and what they do. And again, you're gonna have to get past a lot of bias here, because exactly what happened with every Calvinist I've run into, including the self-appointed, grand poobah of you guys, and I know you may not follow this, but I guarantee you, if you talk to Matt Slick, he's the man. He's got a master's in this. He's got whatever.
These guys are all presuppositionalists, Ned. I am not a presuppositionalist. You're trying to put something onto me that's not me.
Again, I don't think Slick considers himself a presuppositionalist.
Yes, he does.
Okay, but anyway, again, I don't care how you get to the point. The point is that if I am going to protect something that I believe to be real, it's a lot easier to have no conversation than it is to have to defend against reasoned conversations.
That's not me. You're attacking a straw man. I love conversation. You know, if anybody knows me, they know that I love the guy. And here's my problem, Ned. Ned, listen to me. You have been, the past several weeks, you've been getting on, talking smack about me, saying you beat me and all this stuff, and I've tried to get on and say, please tell me.
Okay, whoa, wait a second. I want to know one time I've said I've beat anybody. I have had, I don't know how many debates.
You said you have defeated this argument time and again, and I asked you over and over. I said, show me the video portion, and you won't do it.
No, I didn't say I had. I said it had been, because it has been.
And you've contributed not to that.
You want to say you're instead of going to the Leibniz argument, you want to say it's Aquinas. Fine, Aquinas has been hammered. You want to say that it's
deal with it. Show me. I haven't seen it. I've been on here for many, many months, Ned, and I've never seen it. I see a lot of people talking smack like you and Matt and Matthew.
All right, then let's talk about it. Define what a proof is.
A proof, if you're going to talk about a proof in a rational sense, it's going to have to something that flows from an analytic argument. That which is a rational proof is that which you're going to have a premise and a conclusion that logically follows, or a conclusion that follows from some premises that are logically corollary. That's what my whole argument is. It's an argument for causality, which is the law of non-contradiction.
You know as well as I do that you can come up with a logically sound argument or logically valid argument that doesn't reflect reality in any way, shape, or form.
That's true.
Now, here's the thing, though. Just because your conclusions follow your premises in no way proves anything. All you have done, especially as many of us have stated, all you have done is make assertions without foundation.
Show me which one. Which one of my assertions does not have a foundation? Just show me to which ones.
Okay, let's start with your first assertion that anything that has a cause must have a non-temporal agent behind it that is beyond time and space. Now, number one, how would you go about proving that other than just stating it as fact?
Okay, so you concede the point that every effect must have a cause, right?
Okay, again, I don't want to get back to the entire argument, but just as I demonstrated in our first go-round, our second go-round, and the after show, I can posit using, in my opinion, much more grounded scientific basis for exactly what you're stating as being the cause. Mine, namely, is a non-temporal cosmos that is non-sentient, therefore simpler, therefore would follow probably more rationally or more likely to be true than yours that has to have sentience.
Okay, so you just violated the law of identity as we've gone around and around and around, and you just repeat.
Exactly. Where did I do that, Trey? Where did I violate
the cosmos is both happening and self-existent.
I didn't say anything was happening in my cosmos. I said my cosmos is timeless.
Are you happening?
I'm not. I am a result of the cosmos.
Are you happening?
Trey, you're conflating two different levels here.
Oh, so what? It doesn't matter.
Yes,
if you're happening, if you're part of the cosmos is happening.
Okay? If you're going to say that because I'm happening, the cosmos has to be happening, has to change something, then I can do the exact same thing and say, well, because I'm happening, your God must have been doing something, had been changing, had been moving. Now, if you don't...
No, I didn't. That's the exact opposite of what I say.
Okay, so your God can move things, but...
He creates things. He creates contingency. Yes, he moves things.
And my cosmos...
It's not him, though.
My
There's
cosmos
a distinction.
my cosmos does the exact same thing, except it doesn't need sanctions to do it. In the same way a crystal forms, in the same way
Okay, so
chemical
your
reactions.
cosmos, there's two different types of being then in your cosmos, right? There's self-existence and there's contingency, right?
I didn't say anything was self-existent other than the cosmos itself.
Okay. So you have the cosmos that's self-existent, and then you have that which the cosmos created, which is contingency, right?
Okay, it's contingent on that self-existent cosmos.
Okay, so you're making a distinction between self-existence and contingency, right? It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Okay, then basically you're conceding my argument.
No, I'm not, Trey, because the problem with you stating that is you're failing to understand that my cosmos acts exactly like your God, except it has no sanctions. There's no purpose behind our existence. It's the same thing as chemical reactions happening.
So your purpose was an accident, that you purposed to have this hangout. It was an accident.
Trey, again, you're conflating two different things. Because I exist does not necessarily mean that there is purpose behind that existence.
You just purposed yourself. You just purposed to say that.
Right.
Is that an accident?
I can assign purpose to myself because I am a sentient being.
And where did sentience come? Was it an accident?
That it's what?
Was the purpose of sentience an accident?
It was a result of evolution, and it was a result of the best fit for the environment that our species was in.
So it was an accident.
That's not an accident, Trey. Saying that, I mean, again, I don't want to get to the point where I'm belittling what you're saying, but saying that evolution is an accident is so misguided and shows such an misunderstanding of how evolution works. It's like
was it unintended?
Unintended?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess you could shoehorn that into fit. Yeah, I'll give it. It's unintended.
Okay,
I mean,
so you have unintentioned intentionality.
Because the intentionality comes from my sentience, not something outside of me.
And did you create your sentience before it existed?
I didn't. Evolution did, because of the conditions that were there.
Okay, so evolution purposed your purpose, right?
No, again, you're conflating an outside driver, an outside purpose for my purpose. Trey, I set...
Are you a contingent?
I'm contingent on the universe, which is contingent on, in my opinion, or at least in my, in the possibility that there is a cosmos out there that does not have any of these purpose, has a plan, has, you know, it's not a God back there driving these movers. And I mean, Trey, here's, I mean, God, I don't want to get down this road. I really didn't want to go there, but what does Scripture say about God's reaction to a non-believer?
That he is angry with the wicked every day.
Absolutely. Now, you're telling me, and you've said this multiple times, that if something is eternal, it cannot be affected.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I'm affecting God by not believing. I'm pissing him off, Trey. It specifically says that.
Okay. Now, is it necessary for God, in order to communicate with contingency, to accommodate his language with the use of analogy in order to have a touch point?
Okay, Trey, again, you're starting to drive off the road. Stay with the point. I'm
trying to explain it to you.
And the question is this: if God is reacting to my decisions, is that an effect? Am I having an effect on God?
In the realm of phenomenology in which we live, yes.
You said that's impossible.
No, I didn't. I said from an eternal perspective, like I said, God must interact with us. He must use anthropomorphism and anthropopathism. Otherwise, we would have no way to connect with him.
I'm not talking about how he interacts, Trey. I'm talking about his eternal...
No.
Whatever.
In and of, from the perspective of his deity, he is not... God is simple and God is impassible. That means that he is not affected by passions. He is not... otherwise, he would be contingent.
That runs completely contrary to what you just said. You said
No, it doesn't.
you said that he is angry at the wicked. That is an emotional response to a stimuli.
And I said he uses anthropomorphic, anthropopathic language in order to. How is he going to communicate eternality with us when
I'm
we are
not talking
simply?
about communication. I'm talking about reaction.
That's the whole point. He must use language of analogy in order to,
Oh, so he's not really angry. He's just using that.
from his perspective, no. In order for him to interact with us, though, he must use that type of language. Yeah. When it says that,
So,
remember I've talked about this before. When it says that
would
God parted the waters with the blast of his nostrils, it doesn't mean he has a big nose.
and again, number one, we can get into the hair splitting of did that actually occur? But what I'm saying is that is worlds apart. And okay, well let's use that as a reaction. Did God react to what? And again, this is going to be a little pointed, but what he, okay, if you look at Exodus and you look at what happened there, and you look at from the very beginning of that story, God set the table to hammer Pharaoh from square one. Even when the Israelites were friends with the Egyptians, he made sure that the grain houses were put in strategic places to mandate that all of this occurred. Then he goes in and hardens Pharaoh's heart. There was nothing there. Then what he does when Pharaoh doesn't react in a way that is contrary to what God mandated would happen, then he does this. Then when they go after the Israelites, he parts the waters. Now all of these are reactions to stimuli, Trey. Every one of these is what man was doing and God reacting to it. That is not an eternal, non-changing, non-moving being. That is having action. In the same way that Noah's flood, when God saw the wicked and decided to wipe the planet off and start over except for the 8. The same exact thing. What he did with Lilith. I mean, every time that you look in there and somebody pisses God off, he reacts. He is not, if he's eternal, he's not unchanging. He's not unaffected. Now you can sit here and say that, well, all of that is just so we can understand it better. It makes no sense.
Not better, just to understand. We have no point of contact unless God uses language of analogy. We can't participate in a aseity because we are contingent. It's not possible.
Trey, again, if God reacts, then he reacts. And if there is a physical manifestation of that reaction, that is, I would say, definitive evidence of a God being there. Now, you're a literalist. Everything that happened in the Bible happened. God moved. God made it rain. God parted the waters. God created everybody in 7 days. All of this happened. That is not the same as my cosmos, that is for lack of a better term, a passive set of conditions that
is contingent and had to make itself before it was and purpose itself.
No, it's eternal. Again, there's no contingency to the cosmos. The external cosmos is an eternal state.
You said there's no contingency to the cosmos. You just said you're part of the cosmos and you're contingent.
No. You can have parts that are contingent.
Oh, well then there is a contingent part to the cosmos.
Yeah, me. But the cosmos, okay. Think of it like this, Trey. We've got 2 balloons. Okay, there's a small balloon that resides inside a larger balloon. The larger balloon is eternal, and it doesn't change. It's got certain conditions. It's got certain forces. Again, I hate using the word chemicals or whatever, but again, we can visualize it better that way.
And it creates things by accident, right? It created contingency.
It creates universes
by accident
constantly. And again, using the word accident, in my opinion, gets back to the sprawl and the Calvin approach of belittling and trying to shame the other person. Because by using the word argument, I mean by using the word accident,
Unintentional, that's fine. Let's use unintentionality. So it unintentionally made intention, right?
intention was a result of the existence of this universe.
That it was unintended, right?
No intentionality. Why? I guess that's where I would really like to start here. Why do you mandate there has to be contingency behind purpose? Again, that's a bold-faced assertion that I have never heard you in any way, shape, or form
Contingency
justify.
behind purpose?
Yeah.
I don't understand what that means.
Okay, you're saying that for my purpose to exist, I must have a purposer. There must have been someone who gave me purpose. I can't do it myself.
Oh, there must be self-existence behind purpose. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, because things don't. It's the law of non-contradiction. Things don't purpose themselves before they exist. There must be purpose from a self-existent perspective. Otherwise, there would be no purpose. Something ex nihilo nihil fit. Out of nothing, nothing comes. And when you're talking about purpose, purpose cannot make itself before it exists. It's ridiculous.
Whoa, wait. Let's step back. The ex nihilo, except when God does it, right?
That ex nihilo, from a Christian perspective, is not ex nihilo nihil fit. Ex nihilo means that God, who is something, created contingency out of nothing.
And that's my point. That's exactly where I'm trying to get to. Where my cosmos can do the exact same thing, and like I said, is, in my opinion, much
Your cosmos sounds just like my God. You just don't like the way that one is volitional and counts as sinners.
Because, again, Trey, the thing that you don't want to acknowledge, the thing that you try to skirt around every time we have this conversation, and one of the reasons that I am getting as frustrated as I am, because you do tend to just decide not to acknowledge this and say that, well, it's it's something from nothing, and from nothing comes, but yours is an accident and mine is purposed. Well, mine non-existent, mine doesn't need sanctions. That is the big difference between my external driver, my prime mover, and yours. Yours must have sanctions. God must be a sentient being.
Well, because I said something from nothing is ridiculous. Sentience from nothing is ridiculous.
Why? That's just a bold-faced assertion. Why do you say
ex nihilo nihil?
No, whoa, no. Every animal that we look at, we can see a different level of sentience just on our planet.
That's right. It exists. That's for sure.
Based on its complexity, based on how its brain works. So it's not a stretch to think that the more basic, the more rudimentary, if we work backwards in time, the less sentient we as a species would be, and vice versa. Sentience is an emergent property from the evolutionary process.
Now that is a bold assertion right there. You have no, it's irrational and it's silly.
I have every animal on the planet to back me up with that.
No, all you need is one, and you've just refuted yourself. Sentience does not create itself before it exists.
And and how do you justify making that assertion, Trey?
Because I think I put the law of non-contradiction to the thought process.
That has nothing to do with the law. How does that have anything to do with
Sentience cannot exist and not exist at the same time in the same relationship. It cannot happen on its own.
And okay, number one, no, that's not the law of non-contradiction. Something happening on its own has nothing to do with the law of non-contradiction.
Yes, it does. It's called self-creation. Sentience needs to exist and not exist at the same time in the same relationship. It is an emergent property.
It's an emergent property.
Then it had to be and not be at the same time in the same relationship.
Okay,
Did you not see that?
Okay, Trey. And I don't know if you're able to do this. I know that Cy's not able to do this. I know that a lot of the Calvinists are not allowed to do this. But if you can envision evolution as a reality, my thumb was at one point not there. Based on all fossil records, based on everything that we know of, going all the way back at least
We've
to
never observed a change in family. Never.
again, please go and look at taxonomy. Look,
I am not interested in post hoc
I know, Trey, and that's the
fallacy.
problem. That's exactly my point. When you think you know it already, that's where things really, really go awry.
South.
When you think that you don't need to look anymore, that's why I do what
I'm
I
asking you to prove it, my friend.
and I'm trying to. But when I
You're
do,
not proving it. You're just repeating dogma.
no,
You're just
Trey,
repeating
I'm
what you've
not.
been told.
No, I can go to any museum. I can go to
Okay. So the museum says it, therefore it's true.
no,
I'm
Trey.
asking you for science.
No.
I want to know observed
Okay,
change with the family.
tell me, Trey, tell me how science works, because I really don't think you're getting this. When you're starting to conflate evolution with dogma and museums with dogmatic beliefs, you're demonstrating you have no idea how the scientific process, scientific methodology.
That's called the argument from Veracundium. You're appealing
That's
to
why I'm
authority.
asking you. I'm not saying you don't, Trey. I'm saying it seems that way based on what you're saying. So what I want to know is tell me how science works and how you have negated thousands of years and multi disciplines, including genetics, phylogeny, taxonomy. We can go on and on and on with all of the different and independent studies.
It has not been observed, my friend.
Really, Trey?
Science is empirical. Do you agree with that?
By definition, it has to be, yes.
Okay. Now, who saw a change within families that would go for a common source or common descent?
Okay, Trey, is science is it only through observation, or is it through deduction and induction as well?
Well, the scientific method is through empirical in gathering induction, and then you make logical deductions from that, and you categorize
Very
things.
good. So here's the thing: when we can make predictions, look at.
You're saying you're predicting now, but you're not talking about hard science, right?
No, I'm looking at. Okay, see, that's the problem, Trey. Part of science is being able to be predictive. In other words, you can test it. It should make predictions. Those predictions should be accurate. It also should be falsifiable. Look at teltalics. I know I screwed that up, but it's the transitional, our closest transitional form to where fish made the transition into land. How did they find that fossil?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Teltalics. I know that screwed that up, but how did they find our best evidence of fish transitioning to land? We have that transitional fossil. How did they find that fossil, Troy?
Archaeology? I don't know.
Okay, but how? I mean, you can't just. I mean, I can't go out in my backyard here and dig and expect to find much of anything because of where I live. How did they know? I mean, okay, I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm not trying to make you look, like you don't know. I wanted to know before I went into it if you did know. The way they found it, Trey, is they knew specifically where to look. They knew what rock layers it should be found in and what part of the world those rock layers should reside. Based on that, they went to northern Canada in this specific set of rocks, made the prediction that because of these rocks and what should reside in there, they should be able to find this never before found species. Lo and behold, 2 years later, bam, they find it. Now that's a prediction. That's scientific. That's testable. If they would have gone there and found a rabbit, there would have been some problems with evolution. They found exactly what they predicted to find. Okay. And that has happened every time with evolution. We have yet to predict.
Then why are we seeing it happen now? Why have we never seen a large-scale change within family? I don't understand this. Why, if you're so dogmatic? I mean, I just heard somebody say the other day they were talking about some conspiracy theory stuff, and they were talking about it was some Bible prophecy guy, and he's saying how he could fold the dollar and make it look like the Twin Towers burning and all this stuff, and it's really fantastic. People can do really fantastic stuff, but that doesn't mean it's true. I'm not interested in stuff that's purports to be science that's not science.
Wait a second. Being creative with a piece of paper and being able to go and predict reality are worlds apart.
Why can't we watch it then?
We do watch it every day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, here's the thing, Trey. What I find interesting is that when you're presented with exactly what I'm showing you, is that we can predict, we do find what the predictions say, and it backs up not only across, let's say, biology, but it also, from a genetic standpoint, is exactly what we expect to see. And then you say, well, we haven't seen anything.
Okay, but Ned, here's the problem I have. Let me tell you something. The problem that I have with this whole paradigm, as which I've said before, is you've got evolution saying that something is really, really important, which is survival, and yet there's no agency to it. You cannot get me to believe Darwinian evolution, because even Darwin himself spoke with terminology in Descent of Man about how important it is to evolve. Why is it important if it's not important? It's foolishness. Why would you got purpose without a purposer?
Trey, if I have a set of conditions and I am an animal, any animal is going to fight to avoid pain.
Why?
Because it hurts. Because
they want to survive, right?
What? No. I guarantee you, if I go down and if I decided to be, I don't know, mean to a fish, decided to be mean to a dog, those animals do not understand what death means. They're not worried about dying.
Do they try to survive? Do they try to survive?
Yes, absolutely. If I corner a dog, if I corner an animal and I start torturing it, it's gonna fight back sooner or later.
Right.
Not because it's worried about dying, but because it does not want to be injured. It does not enjoy the pain.
And it is striving to live everything.
No,
I talked about this before. On the origin of species by means that.
How do you know it's striving to live? That's, again, an assertion that you're making based on, I don't know what. How do you know that dog cares about surviving?
Because it eats. It preserves itself. It tries to go away from suffering. Come on.
It has nothing to do with the awareness of death. It has to do with the awareness of the uncomfortable condition it's in if it doesn't eat.
And it's striving to survive. It eats so that it can live.
No, it's not. Again, you're assigning an end result. It is reacting to conditions. It is uncomfortable not to eat. It doesn't feel good. It gets hungry.
Okay, so you're not striving to survive then?
I'm striving to survive because I have a brain that allows me to be self-aware.
Okay, well that's the same thing. All I need is one thing that is trying to survive.
Trey, but you can't skip that. You can't sit there and say, well, all of the rest of all these animals that we can see graduated differences in their ability to understand not only their self-awareness, but how they react to their environment, and then just go, but when it comes to humans, it's totally different because we know about death.
No, all I need is one thing that is seeking to purpose, and accident does not bring forth purpose. Unintention.
Okay, then why does a dog hunt? Let's say that there's a wild dog. Why does it hunt, Trey?
It's purposive, for survival.
For survival? That's what's going through that dog's mind.
Here, on the origin of species by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life.
You do realize you're quoting a 200-year-old book when science moves exponentially.
Oh, so Darwin no longer holds then?
I didn't say that all of Darwin doesn't hold. I'm saying that
you're saying him speaking with purposive language, and you're speaking with purposive language.
Trying to pin purposiveness on the verbiage that Darwin happened to use because of the language of his time is, I'm sorry, ridiculous. We know through many experiments.
Richard Dawkins uses the same language, please. This is so
Trey, because he has got to try to, number one, I don't like a lot of what Dawkins does, but again, I understand why he does it, because, Trey, he has got to talk to people sorry, but Americans that don't understand science, that don't understand, so he has to use verbiage that everyone understands.
Oh
Now,
my goodness.
again, when I asked you specifically if a dog is eating because it's worried about dying, you said no, of course not.
I didn't say that.
Okay, so a dog does understand death.
Instinctively, yes.
Instinctively. What does that mean?
Everything has an instinct, all sentient creatures, to survive. I mean, how could you say otherwise?
I'd agree with that, but there's problem. You shoehorned a little word in there that has huge ramifications.
Oh,
Sentient.
tricky me. Which one was it? Oh, sentient.
Yes. So dogs are sentient now.
Well, sure. Good grief.
Okay,
Yes.
then let's back it off.
Bugs are sentient.
Crab. Is a crab sentient?
Yes.
So
Are they
there's
not? Do they
no
not
way-
choose to do things?
You're telling me, okay, maybe we're using the word in a different way. Let's go down to a microbe. How about let's say a nylon-eating bacteria, by the way, is a really good indication of evolution because nylon didn't exist 100 years ago, but we'll get past that point. A nylon-eating bacteria, is it sentient? Does it eat because it knows it's going to die?
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
Then why does it eat?
Maybe so. I mean, why does DNA replicate? Same thing.
Exactly, Trey.
Replicating for the purpose of
actually,
for the
that's where
purpose
I
of
was going. I was
surviving.
going to go all the way down to RNA and go actually into some of the amino acids, but you did it beautifully there. Does all of the chemical reactions that we see, does a crystal grow because it's worried about non-existence?
No, a crystal is not sentient.
Exactly. So, again, where is that line? Well, we can see graduated sentience all the way from chemical reactions to us.
Go out and take a hammer to your neighbor, and I'll show you the line.
Really? And I take a hammer to a crystal, it doesn't do anything.
That's exactly right. Why is there a difference?
Why
is it so special to you? Why are you so angry at people that do that?
I take a hammer to a coral reef, it doesn't do anything.
That's
It's
exactly
alive.
right. Why do you get mad at people that take hammers at their neighbors?
Trey, I'm not going to let you go down a rabbit hole. What I'm saying is this. You want to assign sentience, you want to assign purpose without giving any justification for that.
I am giving justification. You're the one that's not giving justification, my friend.
No, my justification is I'm doing exactly what science says to do. I'm observing,
because that's what they told you.
I'm observing what nature provides, and what I said is a graduated sentience all the way from any life form, let's go with a microbe or even a coral reef, all the way to us, and the more complex it gets, the more emergent sentience and understanding becomes.
Okay.
It doesn't?
Now I am terribly hungry, and I've got a lot of work to do. Can we maybe answer some questions or something for a half hour or so, and then I need to go.
Troy, this is. I mean, I already put in the comments section. I don't know if anybody wants in, just either hit me up in this or I mean, I've got the comment section open. We've only got 9 people watching. Anybody wants in, please come in. But this is another of the things that happens, Trey, and this is the second time this has happened with me. I back you into a corner, if you will.
What corner? No, let's deal with it. What corner are you talking about?
Okay, the first time when we talked about this, it was, I believe, morality, and you wanted to go, and now I get you to the point where I think I've clearly demonstrated that what nature clearly indicates is graduated sentience.
It just pops into existence. It's magic. Yeah, you really spanked me there.
It's not magic, Trey. That's where you come in. Your magic is God saying, "Poof, we have sentience." That's magic, Trey. That's
Is God sentient?
I don't think God is existent, so no.
Okay, you really spanked me there. I'll tell you. What am I going to do?
Again, Trey, I am asking questions, pointed questions. I have demonstrated a set of conditions that we both agree on, that there is graduated sentience, and instead of saying, well, you know what? That is a good point. Or it's not a
Because
good
it's not a
point
good
because of
point.
this. You just say, oh, it's magic. When in no way, shape, or form did I allude to magic in any way. Exactly what I would expect from Calvin. Exactly what I would expect from Sproul. You want to diminish what I have to say. You want to no, Trey. I'm talking. Give me a second, because now I am getting fired up. Exactly what Sproul would do, exactly what Calvin would do in trying to diminish what I have to say and shame me in by using these little cute words of magic, and it just happens, and there was no purpose. When
Hey,
I
Ned.
give a,
Ned, you
when
know
I give,
what? You know
yeah,
that I like you.
Trey, I mean, I would love to say the same thing, but at this point, I'm really starting to question that. And the
You just get really mad. You and Matt both get really mad and you start talking stuff, but you can't back it up.
Trey, I've been backing it up for now going on, what, 5.5 hours? I have given you a a well-founded alternative to your creator, namely a cosmos that meets every condition that you ask for and is grounded in the most well um, researched, most accurate, most predictive model that mankind has ever devised, namely quantum theory. You poo-poo that off as, oh, that can't happen. Don't give me a reason. Just say it
No,
can't.
quantum
Because
theory is very is very. There's a little understanding to it. I'm not saying that it's foolishness. I mean, it's a reality,
it
but we
is
just don't
absolutely
understand it.
reality. And when I base that along with the mathematics that goes in to multiverse
That's
and
rubbish.
string theory,
Rubbish. Yeah.
exactly, it's rubbish. And your foundation for that is what? What
The
again?
law of non-contradiction. You're opposing an
There is
eternity
no
of effects without a cause.
there is no violation of that, Trey. There is absolutely no violation of the law of non-contradiction when I say that there is an eternal cosmos. And the only thing you can do to that is say that, well, it breaks the law of non-contradiction. Why? Because it does. Because you
Because
can't
it's
have
an
a
effect
cause. Because
without a
you can't have
cause.
a cause, or you can't have an effect without a cause. I've never posited an effect other than the universe.
That's what a multiverse is.
What? Again, I don't think you're getting this. Now the big balloon has a bunch of little balloons inside of it. The big balloon never changes, Trey. The
Okay,
big
well
balloon,
then that's not a multiverse. You're
really?
basically you're basically using my worldview now and just denying sentience.
No, I'm asking for a justification for sentience because I don't need it with my
And I
worldview.
said you.
And again, you can't get there because it's very blatantly obvious through evolution, and every animal we see that graduated sentience can and does come through evolution. And all you want to say at that point is it's magic. No, it's not. It's a developmental process that is right there on the table. That every independent type of study that we do when it comes to life verifies that exact thing. But instead of, when I said, go look for yourself, oh, I'm not going to do that. No, no, no. Really? That's what a truth seeker does.
I
Do you
didn't
know
say that.
how many different religions I've studied? I went to Oral Roberts as a non-believer because I wanted to know what's out there.
Well, that
How
wasn't a
many?
very good place to go.
It's as good as any as far as I can tell.
No, goodness, no. That's rubbish.
Trey, I hate to put it this way, but Oral had, I mean, the
He was a
Calvinist author.
charlatan. Everybody knows that he starved himself to
Exactly.
milk people out of
I
money.
absolutely agree that he is the biggest charlatan in the world, as is Psi 10, as is any Calvinist, as is any
Okay.
of the leaders from any religion.
Okay, listen, Ned, I really need to go because I got 2 hours worth of work still to go, and my son's in from out of town, and I want to.
Trey, you're, I'm putting it out there because like I said, I'm to my end of the rope with this. I have given you an answer to every question
No,
that
you
you
haven't.
have posited. You're going to say no, Trey, but that doesn't mean you haven't. That doesn't mean that it hasn't been done. All it means is that you don't like the answers I gave.
You're
And
projecting.
instead of actually addressing them, and instead of actually saying, okay, let's go through that. Let's look at the taxonomy. Let's look at how they find and predict where they're going to find the next species. What we can expect to see on a chromosome standpoint with the number 2 chromosome in the human species, why it's fused, and how that might account for our difference between chimpanzees and the rest of the great apes. Now, we're not going to look at that because that's all dogma. That's not predictive capability. That's not something that's been tested. That's not something that could be verified. No. We're not going to go there. All we're going to do is we're going to say God did it, but that's not magic, because God's not magic. God's real. And God doesn't use magic, well, except when he gives it to Moses and turns sticks into snakes and all that. But that doesn't count as magic because God did it. But I'm the one using magic here, Trey? I mean, I'm sorry, man, but when you're going to come at me this way and you're going to do exactly what I would expect from the 2 predominant Calvinists that you cite, and then want to turn around and say, no, I'm a truth seeker, I really want to see it, sorry. I understand exactly why people get frustrated. I understand exactly why Matthew's there. Because actions speak 100 times louder than words. And I'm sorry, Trey, but your actions have not been reflective of someone who cares about finding truth in any way, shape, or form. I know you need to go, so if you want to have the last word, have at it.
Oh, well, thank you for having this. I appreciate the opportunity to exchange, and I wanted to, well, I just wanted to address these things, and I feel like I said what I need to say. I feel like both you and Matthew have been unwilling to engage, and that's why I'm glad we did it here. Matthew will not. He just will not talk. And I feel like you're doing the exact same thing that you're accusing me of doing.
After 5 hours of being avoided and everything that I explained being basically just not even looked at.
Do you feel like I avoided you here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I don't know what else to do.
In our last hangout, when we get to the end, and everybody on that panel, including Mowdy, says you've done nothing except made bold-faced assertions, and you won't acknowledge that fact. Yeah, Trey, you've avoided every time.
Well, maybe that's true, and maybe I'm completely deluded, but it's got to make sense to me. I can't embrace something that doesn't make sense to me.
And it won't make sense unless you actually try to apply it. It's like saying calculus doesn't make sense. Calculus is extremely difficult.
All I want is a law of non-contradiction, Ned.
Trey, and you don't have it. You can assert all day long that your God does not break that law, but my cosmos does. Doesn't mean it's real. You've done nothing to show.
Well, the cosmos you've defined is really my argument, so not really. The cosmos
exactly.
you have
it's not
defined.
Your argument. It's at best Aquinas. I would say it's very reflective, at least, of R.C. Sproul. And as we demonstrated the other day, I think there's other people out there. I'll leave the names off, but there's other people out there that it's been established quite a while. Anyway, I don't care. And there's plenty of people. I still think the Euthyphro dilemma is a great argument. I didn't come up with it. It's 3,000 years old. It hasn't, in my opinion, been addressed. And so if you want to use someone else's argument, that's fine. But Trey, when you go into every argument saying that this is your argument, and do not cite your source material until someone asks for it.
You're grasping at straws.
Really? No. I challenge anybody watching this to go and look and see how many times you have offered that this is not your argument. How many times you did exactly what I did when I went on with the first time with Mowdy, and not only cited every source that I had, but linked every source in the descriptor before I even made my argument.
Okay, tell you what, why don't you take the last video that we just did together where I very clearly did that and you didn't happen to remember it.
You only did that because I called you out in the comment section before the hand. You never said a word until I actually asked you in the comment section.
Ned, people who know me know that I give... Okay, well, okay, let's just let it slide. I really need to get to work. I appreciate you hosting me in this hangout, and I'm sure we'll talk again in the future.
I don't know, Trey. Again, until you're willing to actually, in my opinion, move away from what Sproul and what Calvin says and want to know what's real and at least give credence and do some research. I mean, I'll put it this way. Trey, have you read those papers that I linked?
I looked through some of them to see that they were just nothing but infinite regress problems. Yeah. didn't read the whole thing.
Okay, so you're going, Trey. This is quantum physics we're talking about. You can't read the intro and think that you have any idea what's going on. There's a reason that I linked the entire papers. So when you come back and after a month of us doing this, you haven't even read one of the papers that I cited, but say that you can poo-poo it off as all infinite
Why don't you
redirect?
defend it when in our engagement then?
I did, Trey.
Oh, okay. Well, then it wasn't that hard.
It wasn't that hard. Do you have
Wasn't that
any
hard to
idea
deal with?
you have any idea what my training is? Do you have any idea what I do?
You're
No.
probably a teacher and a mathematics person.
That would be close, but where I teach, what I teach, and
I don't know.
is
I
going to
make
be-
teeth for a living. I'm an uneducated punk.
And again, Trey, you don't have to be educated. All you have to be is diligent.
So
all
where
you-
do you teach, Ned?
All you have to be is dogged in your pursuit. None of the things that I linked you are would be above a high school educated person's ability. Now, you may need to have 2 or 3 dictionaries out to understand some of the verbiage, but you can do it if you care.
Well,
And
you could
to be
defend it
honest-
if you cared as well.
And Trey,
you
I've
haven't.
read the Bible multiple times, and I think I've demonstrated here. I have a fairly good overview. I went to Oral Roberts. I've done my research. I guarantee you I know more about the Quran. I know more about most other religions than I would argue that I know more about Christianity alone than most Christians do, let alone the alternative religions. I do go out because I do care and I do want to know what's real. That's why I accept these conversations, because I want to know what's out there. That's what gets in my craw, is when people come at it in a dishonest
you concede
way,
my
saying
argument?
that they want to know truth and they want to discuss some things, but then when we actually get down to the nut cutting and we start to discuss it, they do nothing of the sort.
I would assert you're doing the exact same thing as you're accusing others of.
You didn't even take the time to read my source material, just like Matt Slick. They called me to come on that show. He didn't even have the integrity to go and watch a 15-minute video on my nope argument. He had no idea what it was about. This is the type of thing that, as an educator, if someone like you walked into my class, not only would you not pass, but you would be very uncomfortable until you dropped, because
Okay.
I wouldn't put up with it.
Thank you very much. Okay, I got to go, man. I appreciate the time, okay?
Have a good one, Trey.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.
Okay, guys, I'm not going to talk about Trey or anybody else behind their back, so I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. If anybody wants to afterwards or anything else, I don't know. I've got to check with my wife and make sure there's nothing else going on tonight, because this was, and I am a little fired up, so I need to calm down a little bit. But thanks for watching, guys. I don't know what to say. I to the end of my rope with this stuff. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.